If an individual works for 1 hour in 7 days, that person is fully employed.
1 hour in 7
Yes,
days.
that person is employed.
That means almost everyone is employed.
Because it doesn't capture the reality of our country. You saying that unemployment figures are dropped to 4.1% tells us that we are reaching full employment, which is not the case in Nigeria.
Does this also capture remote workers, or does it just capture like certain occupations? Hey there, you are welcome to the CC podcast. CC is the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, and basically what we do is evidence-based research for policymaking. In this podcast, our guests will provide in-depth analysis, discuss policy implications, and suggest potential solutions to key development issues. Today, we're joined by a researcher, and her name is Prisca. Hello, Prisca. How are you doing?
I'm well. Hi, Avi.
All right. So today, we're going to be discussing the revised labor force statistics. Right. So recently, this caused a stir, and we're going to get into that. But just, to gather some ground, we'd want to know what exactly is the labor force statistics.
Okay, thank you for that, Avi. So the labor force statistics are just numerical data that represent various aspects of the workforce within an economy. So in terms of those aspects, we're talking about labor force participation, unemployment rate, and underemployment.
All right, so that pretty much defines it. What exactly is the importance of these statistics?
Okay, it has so many benefits. First of all, these statistics help policymakers understand the labor force, the workforce dynamics within a country. And secondly, it helps governments to check whether the policies it has made towards reducing unemployment is meeting its milestones.
All right. Wow, that means it's quite important. So I think we're getting into the gist now. I would want to know what the current unemployment rate in Nigeria is and what it used to be.
Okay, so as of 2020, it used to be around 33.3%.
33.3.
Then suddenly the NBS came and said that unemployment had dropped to 4.1%. So it caused quite a stir among Nigerians, because you saying that unemployment figures are dropped to 4.1%, which tells us that we are reaching full employment, which is not the case in Nigeria. And there were also some controversies around the way it defined employment. And with this new methodology, it said if an individual works for 1 hour in 7 days, that person is fully employed.
1 hour in 7 days?
Yes, that person is employed. And it also expanded the workforce population in terms of the fact that with the old methodology, it said that people, working population was between 15 to 64 years. But now with this new methodology, it now says that working population is from 15 years and above. So there are other sides to it, where it said labor force, the informal sector is the sector that employs the most labor, the most persons in the economy, and also revealed that men are they are more likely to be employed than women.
Wow.
So those were just a highlight of some of the new
labor force statistics.
Yes.
Well, that's a lot to unpack. I think it's quite interesting, especially with the turn of events in the economy recently. It's quite, it's something you can argue and saying that, okay, we're doing better with employment, especially hearing every day with how people are losing their jobs and just what the state of the economy is becoming. And working for 1 hour in 7 days means you're employed. That means almost everyone is employed. So if you're presently working for 1 hour in 7 days, you're employed. So that's what it is.
Okay, but then let's just do this calculation. I know there are reservations about it, but let's do this calculation. So people work in Nigeria, we work 30 days in a month. Our minimum wage is currently 30,000. So divide 30,000 by 30 days. That's 1,000
per day.
So divide it by 40 hours, or by 8 hours in a day, actually. That's 125 naira. So that means for 1,000, you earn 125 naira every hour. So 125 naira, does it really capture it? Does it translate to decent work?
Anything.
That's far below the dollar level.
Yes. Wow.
So it's causing an uproar within the economic community because it doesn't capture the reality of our country.
Yes, I totally agree. So I would, you mentioned decent work, and if you're talking about the work, especially now, we have people doing different types. So we have people coming to work. We have remote workers. Does this also capture remote workers? Because that's something that we saw, especially after COVID-19, that became more prominent. So does this also capture remote workers, or does it just capture like certain occupations?
So I think this new methodology was geared towards capturing remote workers.
Okay.
Geared towards capturing people that post videos on TikTok.
Okay.
People that are vloggers that earn money from vlogging and all of that. But then what is decent work? There are various tenets of decent work: social protection, fair wage, security within the workforce, and the possibility of developing yourself while at work. But we find out that all of it, can someone achieve this while working for 1 hour? So this is, and since we've already mentioned that the informal economy is the greatest employer of labor. Is decent work found in that? We can't find that in the informal economy. So there are arguments that the informal economy should be so what's the word now? We should try to sort of upgrade them to be more formal.
So now I see a clash of, I don't want to call it clash of interest, but it's contradicting. So if you're trying to capture like say mostly the remote workers, the content creators, do we really categorize on Nigeria? Do they recognize that as, decent work? So if we are now saying, okay, an hour per day, you are employed, but we're also saying that the informal sector is they employ labor more. Is it not clashing? Is it the NBS that came up with these figures, National Bureau of Statistics?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
After adopting a new methodology as proposed by the International Labour Organization.
Okay. So we had an event recently, the NBS and Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa. We had an event here, and it was majorly, to give us insight, right? It was a sensitization workshop to give us insight and to explain. I was present. I remember seeing you there as well, and it was quite an interesting event. We had Mrs. Nancy Ilo, and she was the one that moderated this event. I would want to know, there were some interesting insights, right? And a couple of things that some people did not agree with. So can you highlight some of the insights that we're getting from this event? Because we had NBS and their representatives giving us presentations to defend why these figures, because I know when it started off with, we do not agree with these figures. It doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing this? Nigerian, and I remember after the two presentations, we're like, oh, okay, we see now. So what's changed from the beginning of that event and after the presentation? What's shifted perspective of the attendants there?
I won't say a lot of people's perspectives changed, but so I just think that NBS provided better insights.
Okay.
Because I remember vividly that someone from NBS said we should not look at the figures. We should look at advancing the formal economy. We should look at creating more opportunities for women. So people didn't really quite agree. And some of the insights that was drawn from that event was the fact that our productivity level is still very low in Nigeria. So there's a need for us to boost that. And currently there's a skills mismatch. So the jobs are there. Yeah, so the jobs are there, but the skills to match these jobs are not available. So, and that was when they felt that there should be a kind of synergy between academic institutions and industry.
Okay. Speaking about the informal sector, I'm actually very interested in, the informal sector is the larger employer of labor. However, what the NBS were capturing also it's specific to the remote workers, right? So that's talking about the content creators, the influencers, and I'm very passionate about that because I'm actually Generation Z, and that's where most people are leaning to. Shouldn't we focus more on maybe harnessing from the content creators, harnessing from maybe the influencers? Is there a way we can, have more digitalization? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's fine. Of course, we can have more digitalization on their part, but I also think that the informal sector, which is the biggest employer of labor, should be upgraded. Would I say is the word upgraded now? Should actually be upgraded. Let me use that word to be formal rather. And I feel that the government should do more with making business easy. I know it used to be called ease of business back in the day, but now the World Bank has defined it as business readiness. So they should create policies that would advance the course of businesses in Nigeria.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
and I think in looking at it from another angle, I also think that there's really a big problem of skills mismatch in Nigeria. So there should be that synergy between academic institutions and industry. So it's so that students are not learning in the abstract rather. So they have a way to really fully express what they learn. Yeah.
So we've moved from no jobs. We now have jobs and people that can't fill up the jobs. Very interesting.
But then it still does not change the fact that a lot of people do not agree with that figure the NBS brought, because it doesn't capture the reality of Nigeria. So every year we have like around 3.5 million graduates in the job market with no jobs. So if NBS says we have an unemployment rate is the lowest in the world, then you can actually see that there's a problem. So the government will not be really bothered about creating jobs that will fit or that will address this unemployment gap in Nigeria.
Right. So seeing that, a lot of people disagree that this captures the reality of Nigerians, are we looking at maybe these figures being revised or looked into, possibly changed?
Well, I think that's the thing for the NBS. Yes, it's not. I can't speak in that capacity because I do not work with them.
The NBS.
Yeah, but I think like what they did in CSEA, even though I know that a lot of people do not agree with
the figures.
Yes, with the figures, there should be more sensitization for this for most Nigerians.
Okay. I totally agree. Thank you, Prisca, for joining us on this podcast episode today and providing insights. Honestly, when I heard the topic, I was like, we need to get here and have this conversation, especially with you, because I know you were present at the event and you did justice to that. Thank you so much. We're hoping to see you another time on the podcast. Is that a promise?
Yes.
All right. Thank you as well for joining. I do hope you got some insights as well. To get more information and to view the sensitization event by the NBS in partnership with CC, do tap the link in bio. Who knows, you might just change your mind about the labor force statistics. My name is Ave Michael. Thank you for joining us, and please do subscribe to get prompt updates on our latest podcast publications. Thank you and have a lovely day.